Hello, everyone. Happy day, because I don't know what time zone everybody is in. We were talking about that just a few minutes ago. So welcome. Hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. I am beyond thrilled to be surrounded by some of my absolute favorite content creators today. So I am here to learn and listen, and they are here to answer some awesome questions that we got from you wonderful folks on the interwebs and share some of their awesome content creating reviewer knowledge. I know not everybody loves the phrase content creator, so I will use both. So I want to take a few minutes, let everybody introduce themselves so that you know who you are talking to and visiting with today. So KidSplaining crew, I will let you guys go first.
Hi, we are the KidSplaining family. A lot of times you just see Jared and Peyton. Dana and I are starting to make our appearance on screen on our YouTube channel often, but we're KidSplaining, and we are here to help make the modern board game,
making it accessible.
Accessible to new families to the hobby.
Yeah. So we do mostly, up until now, we've done mostly tutorials that Jared and Peyton do, and unboxing. Yeah. We're starting to do breaking down games from a parent's perspective, so they can choose whether or not it's the right choice for their families. We just want to make games accessible to all of our friends that get intimidated when they walk through content.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. And we've got Jesse from Quackalope.
Hi, I'm Jesse Anderson from Quackalope. I run the most aviary-focused board game content, I believe, in the community with my co-host Jan Bigas. We started off doing aggressively high-quality, production content, and now we've really transitioned to focusing on how can we build the most welcoming community we can in the space. So that's sort of the mission at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Jeremy Howard from Man vs. Meeple. Hello, sir.
Hello. How y'all doing? Hey, party people. How y'all doing? My name's Jeremy Howard. You may know me from basically social media. I'm a little bit everywhere. Kind of a community guy.
Yeah.
And investing in a lot of what goes on to the board game community, especially in Facebook, at least. That's where everything gravitates toward. I also work with Man vs. Meeple, and we are a team of ladies and gents that cover previews, reviews. We have our live show and such. And I also run Jambalaya Plays Games, which is about to activate.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And Mr. Chris, our Charity Boardgamer.
Hey, everybody. It's Chris. I'm from the Charity Boardgamer. We do reviews as a family. We also do charity-based interviews with members of the board game community, trying to remind people about the impact that we can do to make change for others. But that's kind of what we do. And we have fun doing it. And then we do playthroughs and live plays with members of the community. And yes, thank you. Jesse's saying that he loves the beard. So yeah, for some reason I decided to go Grizzly Adams over the winter. So
I like it.
Yeah, thanks.
And next we have Monique and Naveen from Before You Play.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. We are Monique and Naveen. We run a YouTube channel called Before You Play. We focus primarily on 2-player playthroughs with a review at the end. We're primarily only on YouTube. We sometimes dabble in Instagram, and that's what we do.
It's a lot of channels. And last but certainly not least, Monique, our Game Freak game girl.
Hi. Thank you. I'm Monique, the Game Freak Geek Girl. I was a member of Girls Game Shelf, and now I'm just flying solo and talking about games and playing them on Twitch. So you can find me there and on Twitter. And I just chat about games and get people to sing together, and it's lovely.
That is always a good time. And you guys can't see him, but I'm going to say his name anyway. Behind the scenes, we have Mr. Jason Brame from Jason's PokeCard Quest helping us today. So I appreciate that. If you are watching on Facebook, make sure you give StreamYard permission to use your name so that we know who you are. If we happen to pull up comments, add those comments in. We will try to get to questions as we go around, but I'll be honest, the internet was very gracious in giving us a ton of questions for today's panel. So if you guys are ready, I'm just going to get started.
Sure.
All right. Yeah. So the first question we have, and this is kind of open to all of you, what or who inspired you to get into creating content for board games?
Who goes first?
Ours was just it was a way to keep busy during quarantine.
Oh yeah.
I had no plans to make it long term. It was just something to have fun and keep busy.
Rodney watched Rodney's stuff and we're like, hey,
I've got an easy answer to this. I always enjoy blaming and pointing the finger at Kathleen Donahue, the most incredible board game store owner in Washington, D.C., who built an incredible community that I kind of stumbled into when I needed a space to connect with the area. And so we're just replicating the work that she's done in her in her own space.
Mine was just inspiration from a lot of people, but a couple people dragged me across the finish line. Ryan Metzler, who used to be a part of the Dice Tower, he's local, and he talked to me about it, kind of pushed me over. And Mark Spector of Grand Gamers Guild, kind of kicked me across the finish line, and it's just a lot of motivational words from a lot of other people who inspired me.
Awesome.
So yeah, there's a list of people I contacted, and they get started, man. Just get started. So
yep, that's the first step you can really take. Anybody else want to jump in on that one, or?
I was kind of dragged into it from Kiki, Girls Game Shell. She was just like, Mo, come join us, and then like, but it was just like I've just been a huge celebrator of people who make board game content for such a long time that I think it's just kind of a little bit of everyone here that was around before I was in particular has definitely played a part in a lot of this.
Yep, I would say the same. Chris, you good?
I guess.
I put you on the spot, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. For me, it's, I got involved with Extra Life. I just got involved with like different board game groups and Instagram and got invited to do some stuff with nonprofits. We were doing nonprofits here in the state of West Virginia, just, helping out with pop-up markets, helping the needy and everything. And so I got invited to Extra Life, and I had never heard that you could actually raise money and play games and have fun doing that. So I thought, well, if I didn't know, I know other people are like, how can I help something? And they just need the direction or need at least somewhere where they can actually be able to get involved. And so I thought, well, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other people that know of some great charities and nonprofits. And so that's kind of how it came about. So
very cool. Monique, Naveen, you guys good?
Well, I was on a show, a friend's show called Show Me How to Win. So it's Jackie, and she does she was doing really high quality playthroughs seasons at the time, and she needed like other people to come on. And her spin is everybody plays a game from a different strategy, and you just kind of try to run with it. Yeah. And so when I got on set, she films at at one of the big board game cafes here in Southern California. And so when I got on set, I was really inspired by just the process of like planning out, creating content for board games, and that's kind of what kicked it off for us. And then. What did you do?
I just kind of tagged along after Monique started, and I still tag along.
He's along for the ride.
Yeah.
Yep. I have one of those at home too. It's okay. All right. So now that you've gotten into this area, so what mistakes or pitfalls did you encounter when you got into that creative space that maybe you want to share some words of wisdom so other people could avoid? KidSplaining, I know you had an answer for this one.
Yeah, we did.
When we started, we had no idea how board game marketing worked. Again, this was not a long-term plan. So we started to get recognition, realized publishers were starting to reach out to us and say, hey, can we send you some games, which was totally not on our radar when we started. So if you start to get recognition, if you start to get some attention, a lot of publishers are going to do that because that's kind of how they get their name out there.
So will these small Kickstarters, and so we were saying yes to having people send us games because we're like, we don't have a big platform, but sure, we'll share your game. And then it was like, oh, we may have bit off a little bit more than we could chew.
Right.
We had games piling up, and we didn't have enough time. I didn't have enough time to feature them. So just to give yourself a balance and be honest with your time and set up boundaries.
Yeah. And really great advice. As we were working with publishers, the big publishers understand that they're probably going to send you a handful of games and not get a bunch of content right away. We've never had a big unless we had an agreement to make a certain piece of content. One of the major publishers has never reached back out and said, hey, when are you going to make videos about this? The little guy that's sending you packages out of their kitchen or their living room for their Kickstarter, that's their kind of passion project, they do reach out and say, hey, when are you going to make this video with my game that I sent you? So
Because it's their baby.
yeah, so just we got into some of those where it was like, hey, sure, games, and then lots of games started coming, and then we're both harmonizers, so we really struggled with feeling like we were neglecting or kind of giving a raw deal to these people that had sent us their passion projects, and there's a lot of guilt with that. So just knowing
also growing your channel, you want to put stuff out there that is going to get attention. We didn't have enough views to be able to highlight new games. We just didn't have.
So being realistic about your capacity and making sure that you can do right by the people that are investing in you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yep. Anybody else?
Yeah, you both nailed it. That's something that's probably one of the biggest things we've struggled with in the past.
Yeah,
for sure.
totally. Yeah, so we focus kind of on Monique is very good at maintaining a calendar, and so that calendar is constantly in flux. But we try to keep some sort of structured plan as to when we get a game. We try to look at the calendar and see when exactly we can put it out, and we try to be as realistic as possible with ourselves because we have to film it, edit it, and then get it processed and get it sent out. So just being organized, that is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, and our calendar doesn't account for things kind of spontaneously happening that you can't kind of foresee.
Yep.
And we get guilt. We feel the guilt for everything that we delay. So even all the big publisher games that come in, we're like, oh my god, we have to do these games. We got to get that on the calendar.
Exactly.
So that has been like our cyclical pitfall.
Yeah, I totally.
I would say I'm a little bit all over the place because I kind of started out with tiny publishers and things like that. And I got to the same thing, just having people, because I do a lot of social media interaction. And that's kind of a different breed in a sense because people want you to talk about their games. And I was very much in a promotional state for at least 2 years. Yeah. And then that's what I did. Honestly, I just would talk about the games I wanted to. Sometimes publishers would send me their whole fall line, and I had a live show in a big group where I would show those games and give instruction. It was insane, and it was draining. It was absolutely draining. And it's not that publishers don't care; it's just that they will fill you up. And once you get to a certain point, you can't cover everything. And you have to say no. And the hardest thing for a content creator to do is say no in the beginning. And you have to be able to say no and know that it won't destroy your relationship with that publisher. They just need to know your limit, and you have to know how to communicate that limit to them. But even still, MVM, we have more than enough games that we can cover. Like, we cannot cover them all. And the expectation is that we at least do something with them. And even still, we can't do something for everything. So it taught me to say no to most of things that we have coming through.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good segue into this next question. I know a lot of us, we have full-time jobs on top of this. So if this isn't your job, then how much time in a day or a week do you actually spend on it? And then even kind of on top of that, are you kind of afraid that this is going to feel like work now and you're not going to have as much fun with board games?
I'm gonna take that one because I've got 3 kids, so balancing the time with the kids is going to be the big thing. It's like I could say I'm going to take care of this many games in the course of the week. We're going to go ahead and cover all these games and play all these games and everything. And then my kids might be like, no, Dad, I want to watch a TV show with you. Or no, I want to go do something like let's play Legos and things of that nature. Or, no, it's like they have a passion and you have a passion. And if you enforce that passion, they're not going to get involved and they're not going to enjoy it. So the thing is being able to understand and gauge it. So like time-wise, we try to at least gear ourselves to be able to do maybe 2 games a week as a family that are ones that we want to cover. And, but God forbid if something happens like Sunday night, like before the end of the week, and the kids are like, you know what, Dad, we'd rather just kind of relax and just not play tonight. And, or maybe they want a game that they want to play that they haven't played in a while. It's one of those things where we work that out. But instead, what we try to do is at least talk about it, or at least previous games, or maybe I'll have like a small game night where I'll try to cover some of the stuff that I played without them, and then hopefully we'll get some time to play it as a family and just kind of enjoy it. And because I want their opinions to be when they're at their best. I want them to be when they are more eager to play. I don't want them to come into it saying, I don't want to play right now. I'm tired. I'm hungry or anything of that nature. I don't want the kids being like, no. I want them to be like, this is Daddy spending his time with us. He's spending his time with us when we ask him to. Let's kind of have that good balance between those two. So time-wise, it could be, I mean, guaranteed every Thursday I'm doing live streaming. But when it comes to other days of the week, it's all depending on their schedule. And it's a blessing because it at least makes that time when we are at the table together so much more special.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I see Gaming in the North mentioning that he's finding that it takes about 15 minutes. Previews take 3 to 4 hours to do. And I could totally see that. By the time I do not do well on the fly, so I'm a script writer. I don't know if anybody else does that. And I spend probably the most time on that, but easily, yeah, it's, and I'm in learning and development too. So I'm sure you guys see similar timeframes with the content that you're creating.
Since I don't script, it takes a lot of time. So 5-6 hours. And then just because I'm making different cuts and then, I mean, pictures, B-roll, editing, that takes way more than 5-6. I'm just talking about behind the camera, just making sure I'm saying everything correctly, going back, listening to it in real time. I don't have a partner. So it's, it's, even though my process is better, my camera angles, I know what I want to shoot. I still have to shoot it. I have to reshoot it, make sure it syncs up with what I'm trying to say and edit towards that. That can take, it could take like 10 hours, like minimum sometimes, I just did a preview for Primal, which is a fairly big game.
Yeah.
That was easy. I don't even want to count those hours because I really, and it was really a passion project behind it too. I was waiting for this game just like fans were. And it was like, I really wanted to put more into it than normal. And that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. And, if you have a couple of those a month, that can break you. And once again, that comes down to saying no and being very picky, which I learned was something I didn't know how to do, a couple years ago. And just having that one was too much in a sense, right? That takes away from my family time, my sleeping time,
right?
And my time management, which is pretty weak. So, So yeah, it's tough. Some of these things are tough, and I really heard from people who struggle with saying no.
Yep. Those two really go hand in hand, right?
Yeah. If I can piggyback on that and jump back to the pitfalls. This wasn't one because I do video production professionally, so I knew this going in, but everything takes longer than you think it's going to take.
It so does.
And no good publisher thinks that a $20 or $30 game is fair compensation for 8 to 10 hours of work. And that's there's people out there, and you get it less from the publishers, more from the audiences that feel like getting free games, you should just be happy with that and make content because you're getting free games. But no publisher I don't feel like because you got a game, you are obligated to pour hours or days into time. You need the game in order to review it. That is just a tool for you to do your work. That is not compensation for your time.
That's a great point.
But it's really easy to feel like, oh, they sent me this game, I am obligated to make high quality content with it.
Well, Jesse, I think you had some thoughts on whether or not this starts to feel like work and takes away from the enjoyment of playing board games.
Yeah, it's interesting because this last year has emphasized that more than anything. I think I have probably only played, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 games in total over the last 8 months that have been for fun and not for channel, not related to channel at all.
Right.
Which is partially due to the state of the world. I will fully acknowledge and recognize that because I don't have as many different floating game groups or communities to be a part of. But it's really interesting producing content in front of the camera. Not only has made me enjoy games in a different way, but has also been an interesting transition to, I really like work. I'm the type of person that really enjoys building something. I love what I do on the channel. But because when you're sitting in front of the camera, everyone's engaged, everyone's reading flavor text, it's a whole different experience. I've actually found that in some ways it's lessened my enjoyment of games just sitting around the table which is interesting. It's a dynamic that I didn't expect. And then this last year, there have definitely been a variety of times where I've wanted to get other games to the table with a group of friends, and because it was the only group I was going to have together for the next 2 weeks, we just had to sit down and play stuff that we had to cover. And the games were fun, but it's different from that social time. It's different from that community that you initially get drawn into this space for. And for myself personally, as of March this year, Quackalope is our full-time thing, which has been great. It was sort of a forced transition, but it's been one that we've been able to manage, partially due to me moving back into my dad's house for a period of time, which gave us some stability, which I was lucky to have. But long term, finding that balance between enjoying the hobby and producing content for the hobby is, I think, always going to be a negotiation. I don't think that ever ends.
Yep. Anybody else have thoughts on that? No, we got plenty more questions, so don't feel like you can say
there's 2 or 3 on the list.
Yeah, there's a bunch in here.
I've been a photographer for 10 plus years, and so that's kind of was a hobby turned into a job, and I enjoyed it. So as long as you enjoy what you're doing, a job is a job. It's hard work. There's going to be challenges. As long as you embrace those challenges and continue to grow and be inspired, then it's not something that I'd want to stop. So.
I would just say, I don't want to talk the whole time, and I just want to say that there's a cost you can pay for not balancing yourself, and you may not see it coming. And I've felt it several times, and it's caused a lot of stress.
You and I have talked multiple times when each of us have been burnt out.
I would tell you, like, I've been burnt out, and it's cost, like some time, with my family, and that trickles over, into your job performance. I had some issues with job performance and some things like that. But I didn't see it coming. That was the thing. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know that I was in the middle of it. And thankfully, I have a wife who's very good at these types of things. She takes care of her. She takes care of me. She cares about my well-being, right? Mm-hmm. And, you just start to see it. And I just want people to know that there is a price to pay, feeling that pressure, making the wrong choices to the point where you get backed up and you feel like somebody's telling you, give me everything, There usually there isn't, isn't, but you self-impose yourself into so many things to the point where you're literally looking at guilt right there next to you, right? You're looking at guilt behind you. And that's not, you shouldn't want that. Like, I had boxes that weren't even opened, and I was dreading. I went from loving those boxes and taking pictures of them and showing them on social media to not showing them because people start asking you, when are you going to cover this game? I want to know about this game. There's you start to feel the social responsibility and things like that. I don't want people to do that to themselves. So please, like I said, just be very picky. Pick the games you love. That's another thing. Pick the games you love and dive into them. Monique and Naveen, they do something that I wish I would do. They dedicate time to a specific designer.
Such a cool idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
To it, and people will, I don't know what their views are the whole way, but it's like, just commit to it. And guess what? Vital Lacerda is a great designer. Pfister is a great designer. People will come. People will come. Because they're going all in. Okay, do this game by them. Do this game by them. But that's a good cycle to have. You're doing something you're passionate about instead of doing something. I call it chasing the cool.
Yeah. And I'm gonna jump to technology stuff, but we have some more. So if you've got more questions about it, we may circle back because there's some still great questions I want to touch on about a lot of this, and we may get into a little bit more of it as we go down through the questions. So I'm gonna hop over to technology stuff because I know a lot of you work in different mediums. I mean, Alison, you mentioned that you do photography, and Jesse does amazing video work. So what's your favorite medium to work in?
Photography.
And that's okay to say. Yeah.
I think me being new, and most of what I've done has been streaming, like live streaming, like Twitch. I've absolutely loved that experience. I love getting to see not just the people that are in my chat, but getting to see the same people in other people's chat, and it really does feel more like, I don't know, almost like summer camp, or
totally,
you're all kind of thrown together in this space. And then as you go from space to space, you begin to recognize the kid who makes lanyards, and then the kid who does the horseback riding. And then they recognize each other because they did the hike and you went swimming. Like, you know, it just feels
Yep.
a little bit like that. So it feels like
No, that makes sense.
Board game got people.
That's cool.
Well, and I feel like Twitch is so. I don't know if you guys would agree, but I feel like 3 years ago there wasn't a lot of board game Twitch, and that is such a cool new. And that's something we'll talk about. I don't want to get down into. I could go on for days and days about that. We may have another talk just about that because I'm very thrilled to see and very curious to see because that's a whole different kind of community building with Twitch.
It's sort of interesting with content creation because I think I worked in the wedding industry for quite a few years, and one of the tropes in the wedding industry is a lot of people hate it. I ended up loving it and still love it. But one of the elements of being a wedding photographer or videographer is you're doing almost every type of content creation for that space. You're doing macro photography, fashion, family portrait or event coverage. And in a lot of ways, I find the same thing is true with the puzzle that you're solving with content creation. I mean, oftentimes we're either 1 or 2 person teams. And so, Quackalope, we run YouTube, we run social media. We have a 3,000 member Discord community. We have a website where we post articles nearly every day at this point. We run a podcast called the Quackalope Podcast, and all of those are different mediums, and all of those influence each other. We have to be decent at ad copy and writing and scripting and reading rule books and producing flavor text and videography and editing. And Jan has had to learn a whole audio interface and soundscaping. And so I find it's not really the question around what's my favorite medium to work in really comes down to what allows me to connect with the community the most and what allows me to tell the most effective story. Yep. And as we are doing that throughout the process, the approach has always been, well, just start producing. And if you run into a problem, just learn another tool or another craft that lets you do it slightly better. And then just, by golly, keep going.
Yeah, that's great.
I kind of carved out my space on Facebook. I just decided to invest in it a little bit early when I first started, and I had kind of a massive audience with the board game. Wasn't a Board Game Revolution Facebook group, so I had this big captive audience to kind of go with me on that journey. And it honestly, I would, speaking of tech, just starting out with my cell phone and a stand and a lavalier microphone, and I just went at it. And when I moved over to MVM, I kind of started to add things to it, but it was just always that Facebook crowd and the feeling of having people live and interacting with them live. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it for me. Yeah. I like recording stuff, but I don't know if I could ever. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. I would say this now. I don't know if I could record playthroughs. I just love being in it live. Just being silly. People don't know, even though I'm a solo player, that's some of the stuff I do by myself. I'm just kind of excited like a little kid. Sometimes I literally, when I roll a crit, I'm like, yeah! Trust me, my wife knows. I play late at night. She does not want to hear the story in the morning. So yeah, it's interesting the path you choose. I tried podcasting. I love it, but I'm just not that good at it. There's things that we always dabble into, right?
Yeah.
And I do like joining other people on their formats.
You're one of the best guests I've ever heard.
Yeah,
so, to be fair, I'm fighting you on every other show.
Yeah, I like that part of it. I like enjoying other people's mediums because I'm not good at those things. So I'm not good at those things. So I like to stay in my wheelhouse when I'm good at and get better at it.
Yeah. I miss podcasts. That's how Jason and I started, and I miss it because you only have so many hours a day that you can devote to this medium, and you kind of pick one and run with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will say that one of the hardest parts of starting to do more content, as you would, or whatever preference you prefer to use, is that
Right.
I don't get to absorb nearly as much of people who are now friends content.
Yes.
So it's just I could watch a 3-minute video may take me a few hours because I have my kids and Secret Life, and then I have the board game media stuff, and then trying to squeeze it all in and then still feel like I get time with the homies,
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it is still I just notice I just interact with everyone in a different way than I did before, where it's just now I am it's kind of cool because it's just hey, how did your video go? What camera did you use? And can you give me a softbox recommendation?
Yeah.
Versus just going woohoo!
Yeah.
Yay! But
Now, and I guess with that segue, do you guys have any must-haves for equipment? I know a lot of us, I think we all recommend start small and work your way up, because you don't even know, maybe you're going to do this for a month and decide it's not for you. And now you've invested, $800 in equipment or something.
Yeah.
Well, I always say the best camera you have, that's what I tell people who ask me about photography. The best camera you have is the one, or the best camera you can have is the one you have. Like, phone, if you don't take the picture with equipment that you don't think is up to par, then you won't take the picture.
No. Totally.
Picture with what you have.
I come from, professional, wedding photography, videography, commercial work. So like I entered into the space with probably a $20,000 studio, which is equipment that very much so was gear that paid for itself, that had a reason for existing. Yeah. And I still, like, across the board, my best advice or my biggest advice when it comes to gear is don't spend money on anything before you start. Grab your cell phone, learn a little bit of window lighting. Yep. The reason you spend money on gear is to give you more control. You don't know what you need to control until you've started figuring out the puzzle that you're trying to solve. I was actually just talking. I was just talking with Jazz, and he's a brand new content creator doing some great stuff over on YouTube. And one of the things he was mentioning is he's upgrading his lighting system, and he sold 3 board games to justify or offset that price point. And I'm like, yes, that's the right way to approach it. Find a way for it to pay for itself before you start sinking money into things.
And prioritize what you want to get next.
But if you are going, I would say cameras are the last thing to upgrade. If you are going to spend money, audio is king. People will forgive. Any phone that's less than 10 years old has plenty good of a camera to start with. Yeah. People will forgive video. People will forgive lighting. You don't want to be in the dark, but people will forgive lighting. People will not watch something that sounds like you're talking into a tin can. So if you are going to invest in anything, buy a $15 clip-on lapel from Amazon. But audio is, in my opinion, the most important thing to start out with. And like Monique and Naveen, your earbuds have a better microphone than your phone across the room. Do something to get clear audio, because that is the biggest turnoff for anybody. And then invest as you need to invest as you find ways to justify growing. But
I would say, so I literally I started with a $15 mic stand that I bought off $20 mic stand I bought off Amazon. I still have it today. Nice. It's I don't use it, but I still have it because I remember where I came from. I have my cell phone that I upgraded to use for live streaming back in the day. Nice. And then further down the line, like I just took once a year, I would buy a piece of equipment. So I would research it forever. I would go to other content outside of board games to find out the best video content. And I would study it for like 6 months before I bought my first camera. And I still made mistakes because I didn't do everything I wanted to. So that's why I'm saying don't force yourself to buy stuff super fast, because one of the biggest pieces of advice I can tell you, like if I was watching Jesse's videos every day and I was trying to make Jesse's videos, I would have to spend a lot of money because he has professional equipment.
Yes and no. I mean, I'm going to hop in there because
I'm only going to say this. I'm only going to say this for this reason. One of the hardest things to do is when you chase somebody else's stuff.
Sure.
And you start to tell yourself that certain people have all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's really affordable if you want to invest, but don't do it so fast. Don't do it so fast. Yeah.
I 100% agree with that sentiment. But one of the biggest advantages I have when it comes to the content I'm producing is not the gear that I necessarily have. It's the 5 or 6 years of freelance work that I did beforehand. And so people saw me hop into it, and because I can set up and shoot a board game video on my cell phone, and if it'll take a little bit more work. It'll probably take me a little bit more time because the gear makes it easier for me in some ways. But I can use the knowledge of lighting and framing and B-roll and videography to utilize this camera in the same exact way that I use all the other camera gear that I have. So when someone hops in, it's really hard to gauge how much experience they have, what their past is. Chase yourself, improve on your stuff. Just like Jeremy's saying, look at yourself a week or a month or look at my stuff right now to where I started 2 years before, or the video that I released that was 6 years before that. There's so much improvement that happens over time.
And you learn your equipment. Like before you upgrade, learn your equipment. Get the best out of your equipment. Sometimes the deficiencies that you have can be made up in editing. You know, like you just realize, oh, I can just edit this. Like I can just kind of like, you know, change the lighting.
All my B-roll is hiding hard cuts.
Yes,
that are me stumbling over my words.
So I just tell people like that's the thing. Like learn the heck out of your equipment before you start buying extra stuff, and you will get the best out of it. Like I have this camera. I spent so much money on this camera. I don't know how to use more than 3 functions on it, and it's great. But it's probably great because I know it does so much auto instead of actually knowing how to use it. And there's probably more potential in there. Without a doubt, it's more potential. That's why I spent all this money on it. But I don't know how to use it. So I have to learn that in order to, you know, maximize it instead of spending a couple $100 to, you know, alleviate the problem, you know? So, yeah.
It's really easy to look at other people's end products and say, I can never do that. Like I can't, I don't know how to get there, whether it's a photo that's really a cool setup. But you have to realize every creator, and this is for me when I'm doing commercial video, when Allison's setting up a photo, it is one step at a time, starting with a blank slate and just adding elements. So if you want to take a really cool picture, put the board there and then add something to it. Look at the camera, add something else. No commercial, no professional photography is just, there it is. It is step by step by step by step by step. And you have to realize most of those people had no idea what the end product was going to look like when they started adding those steps. So you can do it too. Just play around with stuff and play around with lighting that you have, with lamps that you have.
Yeah. To this day, we still use an iPhone as our front on. We've never shot a video as a front on that is not our iPhone.
Awesome. Yeah. Nothing really shot or like made us upgrade it.
We still have introductory soft boxes that you can get on Amazon. We'll leave a link in the description below.
$80, you can get a full-on lighting kit.
Totally.
Like a full,
we still use it.
That's the set that we get.
Yeah, $80.
$10.
Yeah, and there's some good hacks around it too. I mean, there's ways that you can get some of that, like you said, with desk lamps.
Yep,
once you learn where to put them.
Lamps with lampshades, change the bulbs, record at a certain time of the day. Always make sure you're facing your window. And just make sure you softbox the window. Softbox the window. No, just softbox the window. Change your sheets on the window. Like change them. That's it. It's just a simple thing. I have 2 lights on. I have my 2 lights on in front of me. The ones behind me, they mess up my lighting. You know, I would change a little bit so this is not on my forehead, but that's about it. And you can do that behind the scenes. You don't have to have a special camera for that. You know. So it's just
white balance.
Yeah, just white balance.
Yeah. White balance. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to jump now. So let's get into a little bit about what your processes are for creating this sort of content. And I'm going to jump, Jason. So here you go. Like, this is why I have somebody in the background, right? I'm going to jump to the question of, I want to make sure we talk about it. How do you include a kid's perspective? And this question really came from actually before Daniel and Alison, you even announced this new video series that you're doing. We had a question come in that said, how do I gauge whether or not a game is good for my kids? And I know you guys do kids work. I know Chris does too.
Yeah, Chris has some perspective on this too. I actually had, I think he was in the comments too, someone want to pick my brain about what makes, as a parent, what makes me pull a game off the shelf? What makes, like, what is it about a game that that makes us want to bring it out on the table with our kids? And there's so many. See, the question was games. What was the question again? Say the question again so I can hear it in my head.
So how do you get a kid's perspective?
How do you include a kid? Oh, weird. How do you include a kid's perspective? My brain is going blank right now as far as what I was going to say.
That's a hard. I mean, I think it's not a direct answer to the how do you include a kid's perspective. How do you know if a game is going to be good for a kid?
Yeah,
I think you gotta. We as parents tend to underestimate our kids' ability to do things.
Yes.
I think finding cooperative games are great for getting kids involved because you can kind of help them along. But I think just giving them a chance to play, I think theme is really important for kids because they have way better imagination.
Yeah,
so
they can tap
dive
into
into
theme quicker than an adult can usually.
Jared is playing role player and he's diving into like, look at my orc and all my armor and how great this person is. And it's like as an adult, sometimes you just see pictures on a thing, but they are in the theme. And if they are into the theme, they're going to be a lot more driven to do it. But we just play games with our kids. We play games that are maybe a little harder than Peyton can get at first, but we help him along and say one of us is going to sit next to him and see kind of his hidden information and help him along. But you just have to gauge your kids and see how driven they are to play.
People will ask us, well, would this game work with our kid? And that's kind of why we started the whole segment of Can Kids Play? Because it's like, well, we don't know your kid. So we don't know if this would be a good fit.
Very true.
So that's why we're breaking down the games so that it'd be like, okay, if you're thinking about this game, here's the things that you can look at. We're breaking apart the game. And that's each kid is different. If you have a kid that loves dinosaurs, well, okay, great. We know that. And then look at all these dinosaur games. Start with Gods Love Dinosaurs because that's only that you're learning about kind of, the chain, there's so many educational things. I've been homeschooling for 6 years. I'm always teaching. There's never a moment that there's not a teachable moment. And I love how board games, almost every one of them has a teachable element in it. So that's what I really look for.
I think I was gonna say because I've been dabbling with this all the time. It's called Dad and the Dude, and we would go live and do some things together. And like it's interesting is like how your kid develops because it's like you miss the mark in some ways, and then other ways you realize like, oh, this is something that we can break ground together. Like I remember when my son was like 5 and he wanted to play Mice and Mystics. I wanted him to play Mice and Mystics, but he wasn't as interested in that. And I just thought because he would call it Mice Warriors, where he just liked me to read the stories to him. Like that's all he really wanted me to do is read the stories. And then one day I was playing Montana, trying to figure out how to play it, and he played it, and I was like, "Wait, what?" Like he actually understood it, and he wasn't asking me any questions. And I was just like, "Wow," Or you choose a thing like dinosaurs. Well, he's always loved dinosaurs. Well, I found out he did not like dinosaurs anymore by having dinosaurs games available to him, and he didn't want to play them anymore. I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm committed for these dinosaur games." So I just like you gotta learn that stuff. And I always say like making sure it's kid adaptive too. Because sometimes I will play a game that's like above what he's saying, and I kind of like explain that while we're doing it live. Like hey, there's only some things that like he's learning, and I like doing that too. Like kind of raising the level of the game like as it goes along. I know some people aren't into that. Well, to me, whether you win or lose doesn't really matter to me. So I just want to make sure my son can come along and he's comfortable on camera more than anything. Because kids have to, they're more likely to be embarrassed. And because they're not winning. And I explain it to them like, hey, people just want to see you have fun. And if you're not having fun, we don't need to play this game. And I always try to make sure I set them up for success as well by letting them play a round or two before the game starts live. So he feels comfortable playing the game. And then sometimes he might beat me. So
people will take apart if you're going to change the game, well then why have it? Like I'll see people say that in comments on Facebook and stuff like that. But it's like if you want, the whole point of a game designer is to make a game that you're going to enjoy. So as a family, if we realize, okay, this element, like we were talking about Machi Koro, the red cards can be that combative issue where it's like you're taking stuff from others. It's a variant that kind of adds that just kind of cutthroat. If you feel like your kids aren't having fun with that, just take it out. Because the whole point is to have that enjoyment, to have that.
Yeah, give it a house rule.
Think about some games feel it.
Cutthroat. But
in some games that feels different too, right? Like in some themes, it's like, oh, you're stealing my acorns. Oh, I'm stealing your acorns, like that, right? Versus like a game like Machi Koro, they're struggling with like keeping up at your level. They're seeing combos that you're doing they're trying to do the same thing, and yet you're stealing from their tableau. Like, I take these 3 cards from you and they become mine, and I'm powerful than you now. And they're like, that's not fun, you know, like it.
Right.
So it's sometimes it's how it's done, and you have to be a good gauge of that. And that's the thing. I think you have to be a good, you know, gauge of that stuff.
I do want to say, so before this, I have spent quite a bit of time working with kids. I was an early childhood educator and a teacher for a really long time. And one of the things
that you as a teacher, Monique, that would have been amazing.
One of the things that I was known for was my ability to sit down and relate to kids and get them to like open up and get to work and really building rapport with the kids. And that was because I still carry my sense of play, and I bring that to the forefront of just about everything that I do. And so when it came to play, and I think this was a very valuable lesson, both as when all the times that I've worked with kids, either as a parent, as a teacher, when I was homeschooling, or when I was a nanny, it was, don't make play a teaching moment. Let it be play. Because the kids are going to learn so much. There's so much inherent education that is just there when you engage in a play activity. And so let it be play first and foremost, rather than, well, you know, back in 1776, you know, like they don't care. They're already immersed. And like, and it's a really beautiful and wonderful thing that can happen when you take yourself out of a role of being a mentor and then just letting yourself be a little bit more of a peer in that moment. Because the other thing that happens is that they will begin to tell you who they are. And they will do that in the way that they engage with the play. So you kind of just get back and you get to sit back and just be surprised that you may have played Scythe a million times over. But then once you start and you let kids play and you teach them like kind of the basic mechanics and the spirit of the game, and then like as they begin to engage with the pieces, you get to learn new strategy with these mechanics that feel so old and familiar to you that you don't get to see a new way to look at them. Kids will be able to show you that experience if you let go of what is right and how things are done. You get a much more enriching experience. So it's really about like when getting kids to play games and getting them interested in the hobby and things like that. Let them tell you what they like. Let them tell you what they're interested in. And it can be like real hit or miss. Like I remember really getting all these like really like storytelling adventuring games for my daughter, who really just wanted to play with Dixit cards and talk about Wizard of Oz. So then we got the Dixit cards and I started like I would take them and make like a 3-line path. Okay, but like here's the yellow brick road, but it splits. Which path do you choose? And she would choose a story card, and then it'd be like, okay, well, here's the different characters in this Dixit card. Here's the trial that you have to face. How do you solve it? And it became like almost like an RPG. Yeah. But that got her more interested in learning how to play Dixit together, like with the rules and everything else. And then because we had that entire enriching experience with just introducing the components.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's
so cool. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said that's so cool.
I know, I want to play too. So now what if like what structure are you kind of going through with your process, especially when you come across a game that either has like a theme or a mechanic that you're not totally into? Like I'm terrible at bluffing games, horrible at them. They're hard for me to review because I'm terrible at them. Oh, Jeremy, are you on mute? Jeremy, you're on mute.
I just love doing it. I like getting a little weird. I like going outside of my box a little bit.
Yeah.
And trying things and exposing myself and learning. Because sometimes you got to try these things. Sometimes when I do these previews, I'm very selective, but sometimes I'll try a game where I don't know the IP at all. Like I did the Librarians card game, and he was just like, I was like, one, I don't like LCG type games, and I also don't know what the heck this theme is. But I read the rule book. It sounded interesting mechanically, and I want to see what it's like from someone who does not know the theme. Like, is it still a fun game?
Yeah.
And I was right. It was a fun game, you know, like, and I would have never known that unless I tried it. Whereas if I tried something else with the exact same theme, and I mean, a different theme, and it was like aliens, then I've stopped myself from a game experience in a sense, just because I decided, I wasn't into the theme or not. And I just feel like, as I've played more games, I've opened myself up instead of closing myself based on my content. Like I try to make sure I'm kind of staying well-rounded a little bit. And it's been, a great journey, to try new things. And I suggest that just try a couple new things every once in a while. Don't go wacky like me. Don't be wacky like me. I'm a little wacky, but yeah, I'd say just step out of your box just a little bit. And even with your audience and ask them, is it something that you can do with them and see how they respond to it? If you do Euros all the time, that's fine, but do something silly or do a 2-player specific game instead, or do a party game for one time, try a new camera angle, try new stuff and just see if it works. I don't know. Just try it. People want to see you having fun no matter what. No matter
I notoriously will say, I don't think I like that game. And Daniel will be like, Alison, you say that every time, and then you cannot wait to play it again. Ruel is in the comments, which I think today's his birthday. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Uncle.
He's the one that introduced us to the coin phrase Omnigamer.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I didn't think I was gonna like all these mechanics, and then I played, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to play.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd like that, and so that's kind of that. Just if I don't like the mechanic, there's not really one that I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I really like all the games.
But since this is reviewer advice, kind of, if as a reviewer, when you're looking at doing a review, be honest with yourself and figure out where you're going to put your time and energy. If you hate deck builders, don't review Clank, because the problem isn't the game. The problem is the reason you don't like that. And if you're going to review it and say be realistic about it. Don't just say this game was terrible, because it's terrible because you don't like deck builders. And that's not fair. And if there's something inherently wrong, if there's a flaw in a game that is otherwise a good game, talk about that, because other people are going to run into it when they play the game. But if it's just this game didn't click with me, don't necessarily feel like you need to do a bad review about it, because other people like it. And if the problem is just it doesn't jive with what you like, spend your energy elsewhere.
On the opposite, if you don't like deck builders, but yet you happen to really like Clank, then say, I don't like deck builders, but this game sets this apart, and this is why. I mean, there's enough negative out there. Why put your energy in putting something negative out there that really there's no point other than just to say you don't like something?
And if you feel like something was done, if you feel like there is something inherently wrong with the game, whether you feel like corners were cut, things like that, and this is directly from publishers, reach out to the publisher and ask them why they did that. Give them the chance in your review to say, we reached out, this is why they did it. It wasn't cutting costs. It wasn't to be on the cheap. There was a reason for this. And that is from our talks with publishers, one of the most frustrating things is when they do something intentional and they get accused by content creators and reviewers of just being cheap. So reach out, send them an email. They may not respond, but if they do, that at least shows, and that even if you have a negative review, that ingrains you in a very positive light with the publisher of saying, hey, they did their due diligence. They gave us a chance to explain. So
now, Chris, I see you play a lot of games on stream, and I don't know that I've ever found a game like you. And I've enjoyed everything I've played with you, and I think you've enjoyed close to everything you've played.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just that idea of I'm just able to just sit down and enjoy time with people.
Yeah.
Especially over last year, we're not able to do conventions. We're not able to really go places and things of that nature. So to be able to just sit down and just play something, whether it be Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia, Board Game Arena, or be able to play like a party game, or find a way to just do a top-down camera where everybody else can kind of see what's going on. For me, the mechanics really, I mean, I don't think of, this has a mechanic I don't like. I haven't found really something that I don't like, because I'm also gauging it based on what was my experience like as I'm playing with these people. Because for me, that's a lot of fun. If if we sat down and we played Werewolf right now, I'm pretty sure some of the people here may not be a fan of Werewolf, but I would enjoy the time of just spending time playing Werewolf. You know,
Totally.
it's something that's, I mean, and it's partly the personalities of the people that you're playing around. So like when we're playing with our kids at home, I'm able to just enjoy that experience of watching them get excited, because their whole goal, it doesn't matter what the game is, their whole goal is kill daddy. That's the deal.
Oh, I've
That's
been at
what
the
it is.
table for that, and it was a blast.
Yeah. I mean, Jesse's been at our house, and it didn't matter what game it was just that idea of, okay, we've got to try to push daddy out. We've got to eliminate him or somehow just beat him. And I'm like, okay. And I have fun, you know. So whether or not I win or lose, it really doesn't matter as much as the people at the table, and the mechanics really, they don't influence me as much in my take of the game. It's more just the experience for us that really plays it. And that's kind of what we show in our reviews is we say, okay, like my kids, when Daniel talks about it, he'll talk a lot about the art and the beauty of it, the colors and how it looks. Abigail's very logical and competitive, so she'll talk more along that. And then Elijah will talk about the fact that a card said the word booty and it made him laugh. So I mean, that's it. I want those moments to be more important. Now, if there's a game that I play and I don't enjoy it, you know, it's mainly because either it just was not that great of a game, and I saw how it affected my kids, and I'm like, okay, they're not enjoying it. So it's hard for me to enjoy the game if somebody else is not enjoying it with me.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's something like I've played one game that I truly did not like, and that was during my 24-hour first time doing a 24-hour live stream for Extra Life, and it was Fury of Dracula. Will I give it another chance? Yes, because I have no doubt that it was more the way that it was being taught and being played with the people around. So I want to give it another chance. Am I going to be hesitant? Of course. But it could be a completely different experience with the different people at the table. So
absolutely. Now I want to be mindful over time, so I'm going to jump down to just to get a few more questions in, so we have a little bit of time for some of the questions that have been coming in from folks. So I want to jump to building relationships. And I know, Monique and Naveen, I think this one may have even come from some of your viewers as to like what social medium do you get the most traffic? And then which do you think your viewers appreciate more?
Instagram, surprisingly. We don't post on Instagram anymore, but for some reason I'll just put like our thumbnail on our story. It's like the least that we can do for anybody who still follows there. And every time we do, we get private messaged like constantly. And people want to have like a really long conversation about the video that we just put out. So that's surprising.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. Because we focus most of our attention, I would say about 95% of our attention on YouTube. But Monique's right, when she puts something out on social media, those direct messages will come in. She'll be like I have all these questions and I'm just trying to field them. And I don't know, she feels like there's almost more personability, I guess.
Yeah, they know that they're directly speaking with us, and they can like pick our brains rather than just like posting a comment on YouTube and like, well, maybe they'll answer it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we'll get emails, but we just know that we put something on our story, we're going to be engaged all day.
Yeah.
And that's surprising to me. I wouldn't expect, if I had to pick all of the social mediums, I don't know that Instagram's, and that's just, you know, my lack of, I guess, being as familiar with it. We don't post as much on Instagram, but I'm even seeing comments that like it's a great place for engagement. So I definitely learned that today.
That's how I stories. What I love about stories is because with our channel especially is we're engaging with families. I learned this when I was a family photographer. I wanted my families that I was going to be a family, like a photo session is very intimate. And so if I'm going to hire someone to take my family pictures, I want to feel like that I can engage with them, that I feel like I know them so they can know me. So that's I taken that over into our KidSplaining, because we are a family and people like to know what's going on behind the scenes.
That's true. Yeah.
We'll comment on the kids, and just so we homeschool, so I'll take little pictures of this is what we did after school, or just behind the scenes on the set, or the games that we're playing tonight, and it's very, very reasonable. I'll post in the news feed every day, at least once. But stories,
interesting.
It's all about relationships, and I love it.
I love your Instagram.
I have so much interaction from Facebook because that's where I kind of put everything. So,
Yeah.
If I post something that's coming out soon or something that I probably, imported or something like that, and I'm playing it, people are like, I want to know. Can you tell me? Tell me about this mode. Tell me about that mode. Once people do message you and you answer, they get excited about you answering. So then they have a lot of questions and stuff like that. And, you make sure you try to, these people are invested in you, and that's great. It's actually feels good to have that. Sometimes people don't know what's going on behind the scenes and how you're feeling. And it's like, I needed that today. It's like,
yeah.
And that was a game I didn't even like, but we talked about it, but it got that feel. It may have got my feelings out, or just to hear, someone say something positive about what you're doing, and you're doing all this work, and you're thinking I don't know if I need a pat on the back, but geez, it'd be so nice,
Right. Yes.
I'm working my butt off, and then or they didn't know how hard it was to do the content. I was struggling so hard with this before I had launched, and we had to reshoot this, and then and then all of a sudden somebody's like, that was the best one. You were so excited. I'm like, oh wow, oh wow, it was worth it, right?
It helps feed the soul, right?
All it needs is one. Even when I was a teacher, I always say you can have the craziest class, and then it's one kid is like, that was really helpful, and you're just like, oh, thank you, because that class was a disaster, but it's oh, thank you,
Well, that's another good segue into how do you feed and build that community? Because I think each of us seem to have one, and you, not so much me. You guys have you've done a lot of work to build different types of communities. So what's your recommendation to maybe somebody new starting out on how does somebody get their foot in the door to start doing that?
Jesse, is that a whole panel? Is that a whole other panel?
I feel like that's a whole panel too.
I am happy. I'm excited. We've done this. It's been announced. 1 week from today, there's going to be another conversation just about this question.
Yeah, I'm learning that today. That we could. I've put some ideas in my head of other panels of just one topic or two. Yeah.
So the most simple and straightforward answer I can give, and then I want to hear from everyone else because I'll take notes as well. But care about the person on the other side of the screen or on the other side of the comment as if they are really an individual, because first off, they are. And second off, no matter what size you are, you can't lose sight of the community that you're building, right? And the community isn't 100,000 people. The community isn't, 10 comments or 50 comments. It's one comment at a time. I never thought I'd fall behind on Facebook messages or emails. I thought I'd fall behind on emails, but I thought I'd manage that. But now it's text and Facebook and YouTube comments and everything like that. And I'm still hours a day trying my best to respond to everyone every single time and every single place I can. And I'm slow to respond, but I do guarantee that I'll get back to people. So anyone that's watching or anyone that's on the panel or stream, feel free to reach out, period, open door across the board. But it really matters. If you have a brand new channel that has 100 subscribers and 2 of them are leaving a comment on every episode or on one episode, respond because they're your biggest fans. Mm-hmm. If you have a channel with 100,000 subscribers and all of them are leaving comments when you post a video, schedule so the first hour when your video goes up, you're responding to every comment you can, for 60 minutes straight. Leave the door wide open, invest in the people that are around you, genuinely care. One of the hardest parts about this last year is I think social media gives us the sense that we are connected, but I think it actually in a lot of ways makes us psychologically and emotionally less connected than we realize. It's an impersonation of the relationship that I feel like you can have with people, and social media creates a veil that's really hard to get through. And so for me, being purposeful about individual relationships is where the entire community is built from across the board.
That's awesome.
I think now more than ever that's important too, because you got to think we don't have conventions, and also people don't walk up to you at a convention, sure. All the time. But you comment on them, and that's everything because they know you care, right? And you do care, right? Mm-hmm. It's enough to comment. It takes time out of that and energy. One thing some of you guys have comments, and I'm in them too. It's ridiculous. And I always think to myself, how do they get so many comments? But the one thing that I really want to stress, and this is something that Rodney uses all the time, is so important. People who get negative comments, he's like, it hurts, it hurts and things like that. And he's like, and you might want to go down a well and whatever. He's like, but don't let it get you down because, and stop you from responding, because he's like, you have so many other fans in there, and it would be hard. It would be almost disrespectful to your other fans, hundreds of thousands, whatever fans, to just, tuck tail and go away. Those people are there for you. And it's hard not to get stuck on that comment because it could hurt. It could hurt. But
it's really hard.
Don't leave those other people hanging. Don't leave everybody else hanging, because they know how good you are and they're there for you. They are there for you. That one person is there to hurt you.
Well, and even the negativity that can exist in an online platform, like my best friend's sitting a few feet away from me, who I'm hoping to move in with soon. Like, biggest fan of Jan, my co-host. And like, I don't know his emotional health or well-being enough to know why he's upset at me from time to time, or why he might make a comment that through text I misinterpret and read, that creates this whole spiral of my day. Like, it's a person sitting on the other end of that. And it could be mean, it could be malicious, or it could just be like a really bad day with not enough coffee, and like the kids are being crazy, and they're just, and then you read it through your lens. It's so hard to communicate.
And it might not be negative. It
might not be.
It might actually not be negative. They're just bad at typing it, or you digested it and then you engage with them and they're just like, oh, well, maybe I did miss that. Or, oh, we agree. Actually, I'm sorry that I may have, done that. There's a lot of that. And I think there's actually more of that than people think.
Yeah.
But we do internalize that stuff a lot. It's just like I said, it's just a spear right through the armor, right? It's just right inside the armor. You're like, oh my God, man, come on. Like I did this work and it was a little off. And then they understand how that works and they let it go. And it's like, that's why you engage. That's why you take that risk. And hopefully, you come out of it feeling better about yourself, because all those people are there to engage with you. You asked the question, you asked a simple question, and how do you feel? And then everybody responded. Well, give it back. Like, have that conversation. That's an awesome feeling. It's an awesome feeling.
And coming from corporate video and family photography, both of which are pretty competitive fields, I'd say, and we're unique in this, is we started board game stuff in March of last year. Our first video posted in April. We've never been to a convention. We didn't know conventions were a thing.
So we started our favorite one. We're like,
yeah, they're
oh
like,
man,
which conventions are we? We're like, none. Didn't know they existed prior to like May of last year. So, but we have never been a part of a community that genuinely desired to see the other members of the community succeed. Like, the board game community, for the most part, is for us the epitome of a rising tide lifts all boats. Like, this community wants to see other people succeed. It is not, we have gotten and every once in a while you get it, but for the most part, there's not this idea of, if people are watching you, they're not watching me. Like, there's enough eyes to go around, and it's not this like, I need to push this other channel down so that other people will watch me. If anything, people pick up on that toxicity and don't want to watch those, like, avoid that. Again, there's toxicity everywhere, but for the vast majority of interaction we have, it's been so refreshing, because it's genuinely people want to see other people succeed, other content creators, and encourage. And it's just been so encouraging. And like I said, if you reach out and just engage with people, they will engage back, and they will genuinely want to know. If you feel like you have something to offer, if you can help somewhere, help. Other people are going to help you back. They're going to encourage you.
Yep.
I think that's very important, is letting each other know. And that, like, while we have content creators in chat, it's like we're all here to help each other in some way. We may not be able to help. And I always tell people, like, you're reaching out to me for X, and I'm not the subject matter expert, but these are other people. I mean, I work for the federal government. Believe me, if I'm not a subject matter expert, I am not going to speak on it when there's somebody else who is highly skilled, paid more than me to do it. Right. Yep. But I also, like, I follow a ton of content creators, a ton of them, because I like to just see what people are doing, even when they're starting out. And I just like to see people grow. It's fun. It's fun to watch. And if I ever do hear someone trash a content creator, it's because they feel like they're on the outside looking in, when they don't realize that they are in. They're with. We're all doing this. We're all turning on the camera. We're all starting somewhere. And I don't want them to come in with the wrong mindset and just realize that they can use us as a resource to help them along. And I even say that sometimes. I just say it to them in the comments, or I'll find a way to message them. I'm like, hey man, we're all here. Like, you don't have to speak to us like we're big and mighty. Nobody's big and mighty. You know, there's a guy who does, and I'm saying this, I'm taking a shot at this person, right? There's a bad photography reviewer out there with 500,000 subscribers. Okay. Like, we're not that big. Trust me. Like, we ain't that big. Okay. Like, so we stick together. I always tell people, like, when you think you're big, just realize there's a guy who reviews cameras and he's not that good at that has 280,000 subscribers.
I want to get that big, but I need everyone in this community to get that big with me as well. Right. We're not going to make it on our own.
Right.
Everybody from the Facebook communities combined to even make that big dent, right?
Sure.
I'd encourage people that are watching, like, reach out. You'll be surprised how willing people are to open the door. Genuinely. I'll stand by that.
I got every one of you here is exactly by following that kind of advice.
Across the board. I can only speak for myself, but I have personal relationships with the majority of people on the panel, and I'd love to get deeper relationships with all of you. And so I think, speaking for the panel across the board, time is always going to be a limiting factor, but outside of that, you'll be surprised how willing and generous every single person here is to help wherever and however they can. And take us to task on that. If you reach out and someone isn't, be like, Jesse said you would. I'll pay them for their time or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Just please not at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Chris, you're always up at 2 a.m. I don't know what
are you talking about?
I see those comments.
What are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure Chris never sleeps.
Okay. What are you talking about? Me and Jesse talk at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
There's this really odd moment where it's just like I feel like I've been listening to you all talk, and it's just like I still feel like so brand new, because I was with Girls Game Shelf like for the most of last year, and then after that had ended, just starting up, and I'm like, just listen, I have like there's so many post-its that I'm like taking.
Hold on,
like, yeah, reach out to any of us right now on this panel, and I'm like, yeah, what am I doing?
No, I'm going to stop you there, Monique. I'm going to stop you there because
I need to get you to know you better, genuinely.
Yeah.
Because I knew you through Girls Game Shelf, but we haven't been able to collaborate or connect beyond that. So
we never
that
talked
statement
before.
was also towards you.
My
go ahead.
My feelings about Monique is one of the things that I love. No, I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to say it already. I tell you I love you. I tell you I love you. And I mean that sincerely from my heart. One of the greatest things about when I go on to just like when I'm glancing at what other people are doing is like when Monique's got her live stream going. It's not just starting right into the game. It's talking to the community. It's actually just spending her time. She's pouring her heart out. And she's truly just being a loving. She is an amazing person. So
I
echo that too.
Think about that when you and I talk, Monique. Like, it's just the beginning, right? It's just the beginning. Just get started. Like, you need a refresh button. Things change, situations change, your commitment changes, all these different things. And it's like some people just need to like get pushed to the next level, try something different. That's another. It's almost like you're starting over mentally. Like you start entering space somebody else is at, and then it kind of resets again. It's like, well, if I try a podcast, I want to be like X, So it's like, but instead of doing that and talking sideways about that person, you might be able to reach out to that person and they will help you. Like, they will help you get some structure. They will put you in the right equipment. They'll tell you what browser thing to subscribe to and subscribe to, or try this out because it's free first.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, we are here for you. We are here for you. And specifically me, I'll motivate the hell out of you. But I will motivate the hell out of you. Trust me, I will get you ignited. I will ignite the hell out of you. But I will point you to the right person. I will point you to the right person. I am literally a hub for other content creators. I will help boost you. I will share your stuff. I will put you in the right place with the right publishers if I can. And I always say I'll do what I can when I can and if I can. Like, I will do it. I believe in community. You're just a community member, but once you want to make content, it's more than that, because I know you want to try. And, like, some people need help trying. I got pushed across the finish line to write a crappy blog, and that's how I started, and then I decided to have somebody push me across the line to do video. So, it's just, you need help. It's okay to need help and ask for it too.
Totally. Well, I want you guys all to know, like, as we've published and said that we were going to have this panel, the most common feedback that I got was, wow, what an amazing group of people that you have. And that couldn't be further from the, I mean, this is amazing. Like, you guys have just been awesome to have on board. I want to be cognizant of your time today. So I know we have a few questions from the audience that I want to throw up. So we have that time. That's probably not the right terminology for it, that we will display on the screen rather than just
both work.
Whatevs. So for Mr. Dan Hughes, hi Dan, love you so dearly. What kind of BG media projects would you like to do, but don't feel you're able to for whatever reason?
Ooh. I started back when my Kingdom Death Love was rich, spending probably 10 hours a session transcribing everything into a narrative story that I then did to test fully audioscaped audiobook style things for the Patreon community. If I had all the time in the world and didn't have to like run a career, I would like translate narrative board game gameplays into full audiobook journeys that get shared to. But I can't. It's so much work. So much work. Someone else do it for me. I'll listen to the heck of that.
Jared's gonna do it for you. He's gonna read your flavor text.
One of the projects that I know that I really want to do, and is hopefully conventions when they get back into full swing, is be able to go out a day or two early. I've already told some of these people just the idea. Go a day or two early. Do some community service with the community, break bread, play some games, and then enjoy the convention.
Yep.
But make some sort of positive impact in the city that we're going to be at. So,
Nice. Like that.
and then the other thing is, of course, invite these beautiful people that I get to interact with online over to our house and just do a live stream where we sit down, we enjoy a meal, and then we just kind of relax and just play games. So, of course, I look so forward to the day where I can actually embrace these people that I get to spend time with. So, yeah.
And I would love to board game media projects. It's more, it's board game, but I love investing in other photographers. And I would love to be able to do, at least when conventions start up, do some sort of a workshop.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, bring your camera. Here we've got games. This is what I do for this. What would you like? Just a bunch of photographers in a room taking pretty pictures.
That's cool. That's
Oh my god, I'd be first in line.
That would be so fun, and I would love to do something like that.
Nice.
It is so cool.
I would sign up.
I'm working on trying to, as I work on my own channel again, like really investing in my own channel because I'm with Man vs. Meeple exclusively. I'm trying to think of ways to do something that people have done to me and allow me to be part of their audience and do things all this time. So one of the things I'm trying to figure out is different segments of content that I'm going to create. And one thing I want to do is do like a collaborative review. So we record things together. Or we record things separate and try to edit them together so that we have two people with two different perspectives. And then we come together and we give it a game a really good, honest review and try to bring our audiences together. And I just want that to be one part of something I do. And then I also want to do like a community page where those kind of reviews, there's short reviews that go up on our community page specifically. So it's like kind of a, like an exclusive thing. I don't have a Patreon. I just don't have it. But I wanted to just do something for my small little group and just kind of keep it in there.
Awesome.
And then if people want to join, they can join. I don't know yet. I'm excited to figure out what I come up with. It's so fun to take risks like that in this space because the people will let you know, but you got to take the risk and find out, which is that's the fun part. Yeah, you got to take the risk and find out.
Yeah. Now, Ramstar Games ask, what do you need from indie game designers in order to have your relationships with them run smoothly? And what can we do to make your job easier?
Be prepared.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. Be the most prepared you can. Okay.
Totally.
I just posted in this tabletop designer group and I asked them questions like, why should I buy your game? And then I explained to the things of, what people look for or things that I hear all the time. And one of those things is like, I said, who are you? And why should I cover your game? And the things I tell people, like, have a media kit, like have pictures, have working art, have your emblem, have just whatever's working parts you can have. And they'll be like, why do you want all that stuff? Because I'll figure out how to use it. I'll figure out how to use it. If you're hiring me, because sometimes like I work with contracts and stuff with previews, you're hiring me. I need all the media I can use to make the best content. Like you may have sent me, paper cutouts, but you have awesome art. Well, I can support that by saying this is a prototype, but you got to see what they have, their long-term game. And even if it's one card, it will help. If you have a rule book, like give me your working rule book. It may be embarrassing to you, but I need to know how to play your game.
Right.
And also I would say be willing to take some feedback because we have to be able to respond to you, and you have to learn how to take that as if we are a play tester, because we are. Right. And we want to support your product and play it correctly. So give us the best working rule book and be open to communication and also feedback. That is the most support that you can get. And that's what bigger publishers are most part are ready to do. They're a little bit more prepared with that. They got the kit, they got the press release, they got all these things that they just give you access to if you ask. Because some people aren't used to asking that. And they could put out better media that represents the game like they want to. Even for a real release, like an actual release, they may give you the media kit and you can use it and make better, awesome content to play around with. So that's indie all the way up, man.
We want to see you succeed. I mean, that if we're featuring your game, we're doing it because we want to see you succeed. So
absolutely.
Tell us what you want us to talk about too. That's another thing. Like if you don't have the sell sheet or something like that, like you can actually just send like an outline of the things you think you want to feature. I just did a preview for Primal, and they sent an email and they were like, these are the things that like people are confused on or whatever, or something like that. And they gave us bullet points of things that they were like, these are the features we think are the most exciting. So, if that connects with you, say something, And I was like, okay. I mean, if it connects with me, I'll say something. If not, like at least I know what they're going for, and I'll say this is what they're going for. I'll say that, and that's all I can do. I'll let the people decide.
I would also. Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I would say also have realistic expectations on timeline. A lot of times we get requests for something that's going to pop up in about 3 to 4 weeks. And like we talked about when we first opened this whole discussion panel, was we all have a lot of backlog of stuff. So if you can, several months in advance, try to just reach out and say, look, I'm thinking about having something come out in about 4 months from now. How do we get featured? How do we XYZ? And then from there, we can then start to kind of build a relationship and discuss and figure it out so that we both meet each other's expectations.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was gonna bring up. I was gonna be like, we started this panel talking about how as we've grown as content creators and gotten more into the space, saying no has become a trick that we've had to learn. And then we're getting to the point where we're talking about indies. And oftentimes I think there's a feeling, especially from indies, that the larger the channel is, the harder it is to get on if you're not, greasing the wheels with some money or something along those lines. And from my standpoint, from Quackalope's standpoint, I am more biased towards scrappy little indie publishers that remind me why I love this space than I am towards anyone. To the point where we have a approach that we take with indie publishers that requires a phone call, requires a meeting, invests time to figure out if it's the right thing. And depending on the history and experience and where they're positioned, there's a chance we will sponsor the content through our Patreon and through our supporters instead of charging brand new publishers, because Kickstarter is a ruthless platform that the first time you launch, the odds of you making an income on the time that you've spent is almost negligible. And I'm honest with people. I say, I want you to succeed enough that 2 or 3 years from now, I charge you way too much for your 5th game. Like, that's my goal. But for the first one, I'm not interested on being on a list that took money from you if you didn't make anything, if you didn't win along the way. But that being said, my approach has also changed. I'm the most biased in favor of you, but you've got to send a personal email to us. You have to show that you care a little bit when you're reaching out. You should have some art assets and a rule book ready to present. Like, approach professional. Feel free to approach multiple times. I don't mind people following up. It can be hard for me to get a hold of, and I don't mind that at all. But I'll tell you this, the very first thing I do from at this point over the last probably 6 months or so, we've had to say no. We probably say no to 75% of requests that come in. It is primarily Jan and I doing content, and there's just way too much for us to handle, and we're very picky. the very first thing I'm going to do when you send me an email, outside of just scrolling through and reading what you wrote me, I'm going to click on your social media links, and I'm going to see, are you invested in a community? Have you built a platform? I'll tell you this, Cora Quest, that's coming out this next week, there, and he had some experience. Well, he had some experience from behind the scenes and stuff like that, but I saw that game and thought to myself, it looks cool. It looks fine. It's not my style. It's not the Quackalope. Like, it's not what we do with our lineup. And then I clicked on his social media and I saw the way that him and his daughter were invested in building community and active. And I said, there's something here that's better than what I saw initially. I'm now engaged. And we're covering, and I'm super excited. I agree with Chris. It's an instant back for any family gaming community. It's amazing. And even for some advanced ones, we're hoping for some modules that step it up a notch. But all that being said, approach personably, approach like you care about the person you're reaching out to. Show and prove that you've been investing in building your community before you start reaching out to us. You need to do that. And if you really want to make us biased, if you want like a guaranteed way to get on Quackalope or probably a lot of these channels, find where my community exists and go convince them to tell me about you. Because if they're bringing me to you, I'm covering it. I just am. Like, there's not a negotiation there. If my Patreon sends me a message saying, hey, you should be paying attention, great. It's on my radar.
I just want to say, even on the surface, you have to start putting yourself out there. If I'm the only one that's going to put yourself out there, like, I understand MVM has a paywall. I understand that, MVM puts out specific content to likely certain types of people, but it's like, you also got to reach other people and you got to be part of the community. You may want to have people ask questions about your game. Maybe they want to see the box art. Let them respond to you can get feedback right now, for free by being part of the group long time beforehand. And then all of a sudden, when you show your hand, people won't look like, oh man, this guy's just trying to spam. They got another Kickstarter coming out. And there are publishers who are really bad at that and designers who are bad at that. But one thing Jesse said that really hit me, because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you're so right. I care so much about you caring about your game. Like, I will champion the heck out of your game if I feel like you love your game.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It is a business. It is a business. I understand that. And you got to hit a number, and you hopefully hit more than that, because regardless of what people say, publishers don't make a lot of money. But man, you got to love this game still. I understand you play tested 1 million times, but you got to love it. And then and that'll ignite me. Because I'll be like, this person has been talking about this. I know Dan loves Cora Quest because I saw him years ago on Dice Tower, even talking about how to play games with his kids. And that story connected with me so much about how he disappointed with his kids and all these things like that. And he just helped me learn a very valuable lesson. And I was like, and he's still here to this day, engaged all over the place. And then there's Cora Quest. So of course we want Cora Quest. The community wants Cora Quest. Yeah. We want this to be successful for him. There's people who are outside of the board games who now have come out of the woodwork. There are people in the community that are like, we want Dan to be successful, and that is what you want. That's what you want.
If we're signing on to a game, I have been very proud of the fact that so far we have a pretty consistent win ratio when it comes to games that we've chosen to cover. They do well, they're fun games. I'm proud to have my community get them. I have turned down hundreds of dollars because I played a game and didn't feel like it was right for the audience, or didn't feel like the creator cared about it and cared about investing in the community enough to justify, like, I don't want to be on a losing team. I don't. So if I'm signing up, whether it's a paid contract or a non-paid contract, whatever it is, if I'm signing up, it's because like I'm leveraging my name against thinking that you'll win.
One last question, you guys, from Adam. Adam, thanks for joining us, even if you were a little late checking in. How do each of you discover your niche as a reviewer, but then you make sure that you don't get pigeonholed into that type?
Go ahead. I'll just say, for me, like, I am known as a solo gamer, but I cover all kinds of games.
Right.
But I don't cover all kinds of games in the way people see. When they see me in video, they see me cover games that most likely will have a solo mode. My most valuable content and highest engaging content is Solo Sunday. But when I go to other people's podcasts, I don't cover solo games for the most part. because I want to expand who I am and what I want people to know different. So it's like when you go back to a channel, you have to decide, like, by making different kinds of content and seeing what people respond to most, that will tell you like what your channel is to the audience, right? To the audience. And that's I mean, when you try different stuff, they will tell you. You will learn over time, historically, hey, this is what people see me as, or they engage most with me. So that's maybe what I want to invest more into, or, oh, wow, that worked. I need to try expanding that part, you know? You know,
stay true to yourself, do what you love, and find and invest in communities, but like also don't be scared of being a niche. Like Space Cats and Peace Turtles, they run an incredibly successful podcast and community around Twilight Imperium and now Root as well. Like those are just two genres, but they own the entire fan base for both of those across the board. If you can own the entire fan base for a popular title, that's incredible. You know, if you feel you're getting hamstrung into something that you don't want to do permanently, then adjust. But just do what you enjoy. If you just enjoy one game, well, then be the best at that one game.
Board games and friends, they do Spirit Island. They go all in on Spirit Island, and that's how they care. Like that's what they do. Like I saw that this morning too. I was like, oh my god, like they really leaned in. 1-star reviews. They want to talk about 1-star reviews on Spirit Island. Who makes a video like that? Who makes a video like that? You know, like nobody does.
We hold ourselves because we're KidSplaining, so we're kind of. And people asked us like, well, what's going to happen when your boys grow up or when they don't want to do this anymore? And it's like, I don't know. But we cover family games, but we also, I mean, we're a couple, so we do family games and parent games, and we've got Gloomhaven and Pendulum, and our boys play. I mean, Jared taught Peyton how to play side. I mean, we're family games, but we are universal as to what we will cover. And as long as we show that, the sky's the limit.
And as far as finding your niche, listen.
Yes.
Like listen to the feedback you're getting. Listen to like actually notice what questions you're being asked, because those are the people that have obviously watched your content or seen what you put out and are following up with you. You're hitting a nerve with those people that are interacting with you. So and we're not going heavy into the Kickstarter previews and things like that, because that's not our audience. We're not. We have found our audience, and we've looked at the people that have engaged with us. But at the same time, if you're really passionate about Kickstarter previews, invest the time in that. But no, that may be more of an uphill battle if that's not where you are right now. But I think listening to your audience and playing off of the energy that is coming back at you is a really good way to.
Just publishers will tell you too. Right?
Yeah.
Publishers will tell you who you are to them, right? People will say, like, I'll say, hey, sometimes I'll reach out to them. I'm like, this sounds awesome. It sounds great for families. It sounds like I will reach out to somebody. Like sometimes I see something just like everybody other fan. And go, hey, like this is something I would love to cover. I'll figure out a way to cover your game, you know, and they'll be like, well, it doesn't have a solo mode. I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me, you know, like, and that's a thing that you'll learn, and then you can decide if that's the way you want to be presented. That may start to shift, like, hey, I need to think about these things when I'm, covering, or maybe we need to change up some coverage to show this range that I do have, and I'm missing. You find out maybe there's a hole in your game or something you wanted to communicate different to your audience that's missing.
Right. And on that note about showing range, like we're kind of in a niche as well. Like we do 2-player playthroughs of like heavier strategy games, and people know us for like Lacerda games, but I honestly kind of like it because it's kind of a way for people, people will go and message us and say, oh, well, you will probably really like this game. Or like now publishers reach out who are more of that kind of genre and kind of want to work with us more. And it really is the type of games that we like to cover. But on the same note, we also try to make it a point to showcase that we do play other types of games. Like we made a whole series out of filler games, for example. So I guess just kind of finding that balance. Right?
Yeah. Monique, did you have something too?
Well, your balance.
Okay. I want to make sure you don't get cut off.
And ultimately, you want your channel to be yours.
Yep.
Exactly. Like you don't want it to be everybody else's channel. Don't get me wrong. It's like, well, I would like to see you play like Naveen and Monique. I would love to see you play more fillers. You should just do another series on that. You're like, well, that's not the energy I want to direct.
Yeah.
And I won't say that. I'll just do it. Do what I was doing. You know, like, and maybe once a year we'll be like, you know what, people still ask about it. Why don't we go do this again?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it did great. It did great, but it's like, yeah, let's throw these 5 in here. Somebody sent an extra game that they thought we were going to cover. So like, why don't we throw that in there?
Yep.
You know, it's another way to get through those things. It's like, you still have ways of doing it, but it should be your channel.
Yes.
It should be your channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you guys, that pretty much, you saw the list. We have tons of other questions, but at least for your time today, I don't want to take any more of it. Thank you so much for volunteering your time to be on this panel. I admire all of you so much. So this was a wonderful opportunity for myself to hear a lot of your insights and wisdom, as well as I hope folks here in the community. I love just wonderful chats. So thank you guys all for joining us. This is something we'd absolutely love to continue doing. Each and every one of you are invited back anytime that you would like to be on any kind of panel. I think we saw maybe we may push them down into more niche panels, and we'll kind of see how that goes. But before we sign off, I want you to remind everybody where they can find you and your amazing content. So if they're not following you already, they can. So Daniel and Alison, go ahead.
YouTube.com/KidSplaining.
That's our YouTube channel, and then we have the Instagram. Daniel's I'm mostly Instagram, he's Twitter, and then we have Facebook. I'm working on our website right now. That'll be our landing page. But
YouTube.com/KidSplaining is the only one that doesn't have a hyphen or a period in it. So there's links to everything there, to all the other stuff.
Awesome. Jesse, Mr. Quack.
I'm the only Quackalope that exists online, and so if you search Quackalope, you'll be able to find us on nearly every platform. But for the audience that's specifically watching this, and for the panelists that are here, quackalope@gmail.com. Genuinely, the line's always open. I really mean it when I say that I respect people asking.
Awesome, Mr. Jeremy.
I am Jeremy Howard on Facebook. I walk around as Jeremy Howard, and
It's not hard to find you guys.
No, it's not hard to find me. It's not hard to find me if you are, let's say, on Facebook though. And you can find me at under Jamba, like Jambalaya, Jamba PG, like point guard, and at gmail.com. And you can ask me anything, and you can direct message me anytime. My content can be found on Man vs. Meeple, and also Jambalaya Plays Games. You can join our community on Facebook. It's a very small community, and it will always stay that way. And hopefully we can have some fun together.
Awesome. Mr. Chris.
You can find us on Facebook, the Charity Boardgamer, and then if you want to see some of our previous interviews or live plays that we've done, you can go right to YouTube, youtube.com/the Charity Boardgamer, or just join us on Thursday nights and have fun and as we interview different people in the community. So yeah,
Love it.
Twitch. Yeah.
Monique and Naveen.
We are Before You Play, so that's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.com/Before You Play. But I am also on Twitter, but it's Before You Play _ because somebody took the other one. And
Cyber squatted it.
Naveen doesn't do social media, so if you want to talk to him, he does all the comments on YouTube.
Yes, I'm the commenter.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Which reminds me, I watched one of your videos for the games you're anticipating in 2021, and I totally have a message. Like, we need to talk about that offline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And Miss Monique.
Hello, I'm Monique. I am the Game Freak Geek Girl on Twitch, and on Twitter I am just Game Freak Geek because they don't like verbosity on Twitter.
Yeah, that's weird. And go watch her stuff. It's so much fun. Everybody's stuff here is amazing, and like I mentioned before, I enjoy it so much. So thank you guys. I hope you come back at another time and hang out on another panel. And until then, keep gaming. Have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.